Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Elise Pipkin-Allen, and I am the founder and co-president of BAWR. And hopefully everyone knows that BAWR stands for Black and African Women Rise Democratic Club. The reason that this vision came to me was that there were rumors and discussions and long time going around about African women or Africans and African Americans did not get along. And that bothered me, and I didn't believe it. So that's the reason that I started the club, to prove that Africans and African Americans were one. And I thought that getting women together would be the best way to do that. So if you have more questions about the organization, I'm sure that you can go to our website and then you can see what our mission is and what our vision is. This morning, we are joined by our entire board. And I'm the founder and co-president. And Angela DeJoseph is also the co-president. And Angela, do you want to tell the board tell our group a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Black and African Women Rise Democratic Club meeting. And I'm Angela DeJoseph, and I am the co-president, but I'm also the founder of Women of Color BAWR, and I am a descendant of West Indians. My family immigrated from Trinidad. So I'm really happy to have a group where we embrace all of the Black women of the African diaspora.
I see Samantha. Samantha is a co-vice president.
Good afternoon, everyone. So honored to have you with us as we have our Black History program, and we welcome Congresswoman Barbara Lee. My name is Samantha Jenkins, and I am representing the diaspora from the Caribbean as well. My parents are from Guyana, and it was so important to us in founding this club that we represent folks of the diaspora. So I'm so excited about being a leading member. Thank you.
And Ismahan is the co-vice president also. Ismahan, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elise. My name is Ismahan Abdullahi, and I am of Somali descent, and it's an honor to host all of you today. Thank you so much for joining us, as well as Representative Barbara Lee. And we have an action-packed program for you all. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you. Dahlia Balmer is our treasurer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dahlia Balmer, and I come from the island of, the country of Haiti, my family and I, and I'm very excited to be here today and looking forward to our discussion and your presence.
And Abina, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, Abina Bradford, and it's an honor to be here in the company of such great presence. I'm from the diaspora, from Philadelphia, born and bred, and I represent the Black Women's Institute for Leadership Development, APEC San Diego, and BAWR, and I do serve on the Central Democratic Committee as an alternate here in San Diego in this region. And I am excited to have Representative Lee grace our meeting with her presence as we move forward and continue with the empowerment of Black women.
Oh, thank you. And I am from Mississippi. And I'm so glad to have everyone here. Are there any elected officials, other than, of course, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, in the audience? And if so, please raise your hand. Any elected officials? Any?
I saw Tony Atkins was with us.
Oh, okay, I didn't see her.
All right, we have Kathy Rillings who raised her hand.
Okay, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yes, my name is Kathy Rawlings, and I'm a school board member in Carlsbad. I'm going into my third term.
Welcome.
Someone said that Tony Atkins was with us.
Uh,
Yeah.
no, maybe not. All right, I think that's all the hands raised. We have
Okay,
nice elected officials.
All
okay,
right.
thank you. Angela,
All right. Thank
it's your show.
Well, I am very excited to be able to host Congresswoman Barbara Lee here today. And I know that we can talk about her a lot. She has a very long, exciting resume, but I thought showing you this trailer will give you an opportunity to learn a little bit about her. And this was a trailer for a movie that was made about her that is called Speaking Truth to Power.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And we'll go ahead and play the trailer now.
And now a political icon in Congress fighting for social justice.
I see myself more as a public servant, not necessarily a politician.
To my good friend, the gentlelady from California, Miss Lee.
Let's call it what it really is. It's a massive tax cut for the wealthy disguised as a healthcare plan.
You meet her, you instantly feel connected to her spirit.
Barbara Lee is the conscience of the Congress. She is going to be that consistent voice for what's right.
When it comes to gun violence in America, enough is enough.
She's not shy about standing up.
Madam Secretary, you just don't care much about civil rights of Black and brown children. I was a student at Mills College as a young mother on welfare with 2 kids who's working in the community with the Black Panther Party, making sure people have something to eat. Social justice, that's always been just part of who I am.
She knew what she wanted to do, be a voice for the voiceless.
When I first came to Congress, they told us, don't use the word poverty. But Barbara Lee, fight us to elevate this issue. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage. That's a recommendation which this committee should embrace.
She's very values driven. It is coming from the core of her beliefs.
There come moments where you have to vote your conscience.
Oh my gosh, another plane has just hit. Oh, someone just hit.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning, and freedom will be defended.
I rise in strong support of this resolution authorizing the president to use military force.
President is authorized to use force. This is going to set the stage for endless war. I rise today really with a very heavy heart. As we act, let us not become the evil that we deplore.
All those in favor say aye. The ayes have it, the nays are 1. This resolution's passed.
1 no vote on the board.
None of us had enough guts. Barbara was the only one.
She was right.
Our democracy is at a brink right now. Protecting our democracy is a movement throughout the United States. We are resisting congressional Republicans and letting them know that we will not go back. Central to democracy is the right to dissent.
I felt mentored by her example before I ever had the blessing of being mentored as a colleague.
She is exemplary of the courage that it takes to stick to your principles.
This is an enormous gift to people. You can stand your ground, speak your piece, and survive.
Those times when you're going against the grain, you have to be true to yourself. Continue to speak out, don't back down. And as we say in my district, stay woke.
Angela, you're muted.
Now I have the honor. Oh, I have to unmute myself here. Okay. I have the honor of introducing you to the Honorable Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
Angela, first of all, let me just thank you all for inviting me to be with you today, and how honored I am and how excited I am to get to know you. And you just remind me of what we say, Black women lead on so many fronts.
And you may have noticed I had my kente cloth on periodically in the film, and I am a woman of African descent, as are we all. And so, so much of my work, both here in the United States and abroad, has been trying to connect African women in the diaspora with, of course, our motherland of Africa. So this is so exciting to know your history and to know how you founded, how you got founded and what your issues are, because it's so important to bring the diaspora together, because Black women lead in so many countries. We have now a woman who's the president of Tanzania, a great woman. And we work a lot with parliamentarians on the continent to be able to make sure we have a pipeline of African women to take over these countries. Also in the Caribbean. I mean, well, I have roots that go back to Jamaica, but I work very closely with the Prime Minister, Mia Motley of Barbados and Grenada. I don't know if you all know Decimal Williams, who's now the president of the Senate in Grenada, and have done a lot in Haiti and Jamaica, got the HIV/AIDS funding included for the Caribbean at the height of the pandemic. So just know that I work both here in America and on the continent and wherever we find people of African descent. So your mission is my mission, and I'm excited to know you, because this is, you all have done something that I don't think I've seen in any other community. And so thank you again. I'll open for questions, but you know, I'm running for the Senate. Just a little bit of background. When I left El Paso, Texas, we moved to LA County to San Fernando and Pacoima, and I went to San Fernando Junior High and San Fernando High School. And during that period, only there was a selection committee. I want to be a cheerleader, and you had to meet the criteria. Well, I didn't look like a cheerleader and didn't meet the criteria, if you know what I mean. So went to the NAACP, they helped me organize the students, and went to the administration, told them they had to change these discriminatory policies, because Black girls and girls of color weren't ever going to be allowed to be cheerleaders. So there was a little scuffle at the school, but we won. And I share this because it's about dismantling systems that we have to do constantly. So we changed the selection process into an election process. So I tried out in front of the student body, and guess what? I won. I was the first Black cheerleader at San Fernando High School. I was almost 16, but then other girls of color won during that same first election. And that's how I've had to do my work as an elected official from day one, and as a staffer to our beloved Congressman, the late Ron Dellums. Because, you know, Black women, we can't tinker around the edges on the challenges that this country faces. We have to look at the structural issues, and we have to say, no, we can't just put a Band-Aid on some of these issues. We have to look at the systems, the police system, for example, the systems of police reform and what needs to be dismantled and built back. And that's how I do my work. And that's, as a progressive Black woman, that's what I intend to do in the Senate. We don't have any Black women in the Senate. There have been 2 since 1789, since the Senate and House went into session, serving a total of 10 years. And that's former Senator Carol Moseley Braun and Vice President Kamala Harris. 2 total 10 years since 1789. Can you imagine what the country has lost because we haven't had Black women in our perspective and our strength and our understanding of how these life issues intersect with each other as it relates to housing, Black maternal mortality rates, as it relates to the climate, education, public safety. Black women have done it all. And it's not only for us, we've done it to help lift everybody up in this country. And so, yeah, I think we have to, and we always do, put a seat at the table for everyone, not just for us, because we know the DNA of this country, and we know how it was founded and built on. And so when you eliminate discrimination and barriers for Black women and women of color, you make this country stronger and make it live up to its creed of liberty and justice for all. And so that's what we have to do. And I really thank you all for inviting me to be here. I'd love to answer some of your questions, but I hope I can get your endorsement, your involvement. I'll be in San Diego periodically, because I intend to win this race, and we have a strategy to win, and I'm gonna need everybody, because I want everybody in this state to know I see them, my life experiences have been very similar to the life experiences of so many people in this state. And once they get to know me and my history, I'm confident they will vote for me. So thank you all again.
Congresswoman Lee, we are putting the information of how to volunteer. We have it in our PowerPoint, but we're also going to share it in the chat. And we also created a link so people can donate also to your campaign. So
thank you.
I do have some questions that we would like to ask you. You've been in the Congress for decades now. Why is this the time for you to run for the Senate?
I say, if not, excuse me, let me put this, if not now, when? This is the state right now that has the chance to elect someone like me to the Senate. We fought hard for Sherry Beasley, for Val Demings. We've been fighting to get a Black woman in the Senate. And California is the state now that has an opportunity to do that. And I'm not going to let this opportunity pass. And this is not for me, it's for you. It's for the state. It's for people who haven't been seen. And I don't think there's anybody who can run this race like I can run it and win. I have a background of building coalitions. I mean, I have worked with George W. Bush to do all our global AIDS funding and legislation. I co-chair the Cannabis Caucus trying to deal with marijuana justice issues. So I've worked across the aisle, both now in Congress and also when I was in the California Assembly and Senate. And so, you have to seize the time and you have to understand that my experience as an African-American progressive woman who has a global perspective, who has also been able to get the job done and deliver for people, it's time for somebody like that to be in the Senate.
Congresswoman Lee, you talk about your background a lot. How does your lived experience affect how you craft legislation?
Okay, I'll give you a couple. One is, well, look at childcare, for example. I was on public assistance, and you look at all the issues around barriers to access SNAP benefits, public assistance, Medi-Cal, Pell Grants. I in college was on public assistance, and I know what childcare is about and how expensive it is. In the day when I was in college, I had to take my children to school with me because I couldn't afford childcare. The waiting lists at childcare centers were so long, it took 2 or 3 years that I could afford based on a sliding fee schedule. So childcare is a big issue. And you don't hear a lot of senators really champion the issues of childcare and just everyday kind of kitchen table issues that families deserve out of this country. When you look at issues around poverty, I've led the task force, established one on poverty and opportunity. I wish would work with Bishop Barber, the Poor People's Campaign, brought them to the Budget Committee, had to fight with Democrats to get them to allow me to bring the Poor People's Campaign to the House. And so it's important that that those issues are issues that I've had experience with, but that I've turned my experiences into activism and public policy. When you look at reproductive justice, reproductive freedom, as hard as it was, I talked about having an abortion before Roe. Very difficult because that was a personal decision I made. So many women, and I was afraid I was going to die, and I was afraid I'd be put in jail because in the days before Roe, women were criminalized, and now the same thing is taking place. People are criminalized in certain states if they access the full range of reproductive health care, including abortion care. I've lived a lot of these experiences. I've lived without a place to live. I've lived a life that so many Californians have lived on the edges. And so I am determined that I'm not going to sidestep anybody and not see everybody who has had many of the challenges that I've had. And these are just a few. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I authored the California Violence Against Women Act. A lot of people, I didn't even talk about it then. I didn't want anybody to know the stigma. I did a lot on domestic violence when I was in the state legislature. So I've done a lot to kind of turn, and I know the issues that everyday people face in terms of the cost of living. And I've tried to do everything I could do to make life better in the House. And now I want to do that in the Senate.
Now, when you were working in the California legislature, you also managed to get, I believe it's like 57 bills and a number of.
It was over 60. No, it was over 60. Yes.
Yes.
Close to 67, 68. Yeah.
Well, tell me, out of those bills, which are the ones do you feel are going to have an impact, a multi-generational impact that you got passed?
Well, the Healthy Families healthcare bill, I was on the conference committee on that with Antonio Villaraigosa. I mean, this goes way back. And so we established a lot of healthcare strategies for affordable, accessible healthcare here in California. I was against the 3 strikes and against the repeal of the affirmative action, spoke out against it, tried to repeal both, wasn't successful, but finally we got at least the 3rd strike repealed to be, you know, requirement of a violent offense to get the 25 to life sentence. Boy, I did a lot establishing the Alameda Health Alliance, the healthcare system here in Northern California, Alameda County and San Francisco County, to set up the HMO for people who didn't have health care, which is still alive and well. Gosh, I put into law the California School Hates Crime Bill, which was a bill that required the curriculum to teach anti-hate, anti-racism curriculum and not discriminate based on race, gender. Then it was sexual orientation. Took me, I think, 2 times until the governor signed it into law because they wanted me to take out sexual orientation and I refused, but I finally got it signed because I organized around the state. So I have a long history of getting bills passed into law. In Congress, you look at PEPFAR, all the president's initiatives on global AIDS. Those were my ideas, my bill. I took them to President Bush. We worked together and got it passed. We've saved over 20 million lives because of PEPFAR and the Global Fund, the Minority AIDS Initiative. I worked with Representative Waters. So I'm right now funding a lot of these initiatives and legislating. Marijuana Justice Act. I was the first one to introduce descheduling and expungement of records, and making sure that we invested in communities and in people through the equity provisions who had been impacted by these very backwards drug laws and the war on drugs. So there's a whole history of everything I've been doing to repeal the Hyde Amendment, you know, making sure that we have funding for access to abortion care and all the appropriations bills. So I'm really proud of my record. And you know what, a lot of my ideas and a lot of what I do come from people. They'd say, look, we need to address the homeless crisis, the unsheltered population, introduce legislation, trying to get it passed. But just one small little piece that would really help on helping the homeless. And that is providing for security deposits. You know, so many people living on the streets now with their chairs and tables because they've been evicted from their homes. So if we can provide a little bit of stability by giving them deposits and security assistance and helping them through some tough times, we wouldn't have as much trauma on the streets by people who have been kicked out and evicted. And on housing, I've worked, introduced the Renters Bill of Rights. Renters should have some rights also, and homeowners also. And so, you know, the continuum of housing is something I've been working on for years in terms of making sure unsheltered people have safe and decent housing and stay in those places, making sure they have comprehensive services, job training, childcare, and a job. And then those who want to buy a home in California is not affordable for hardly anyone anymore, making sure that HUD has down payment assistance programs, because the federal government doesn't do a lot in housing, but HUD can do more, and we're doing more with HUD. But so it's a long struggle, it's a fight, but I've stayed steady and I've pursued everything and never back down. I'm going to continue to do it.
We have some great questions in the chat. This one is about the infrastructure bill. How do we ensure local hire on these projects, not utilizing unions? It's tough for women and Blacks to get hired.
Well, you know, their equity provisions, and whoever is administering it in your county and in your city, you need to go to, because we put specific equity provisions for minority and women-owned businesses in there and for hiring people. And yes, it's heavy on unions because, you know, hopefully unions, and I know in my district with the building trades, we have to fight to make sure that African Americans have apprenticeship programs and a pathway to these good paying union jobs. But if you don't have a strong union presence, then you need to go and make sure that this infrastructure bill has the local hire, the equity provisions, because it's almost left up to the local communities. But we did put some, I would say some strings attached that hopefully people will honor And that is making sure that diversity and equity and racial equity is included in every single contract and every single grant that goes out there. And getting those jobs is extremely important, and the businesses and the contracts.
You know, we're at such a crossroads in this country with the voting rights, with women's rights. What do you see as your priorities, your first 100 days as senator?
Yeah, we're at a crossroads because our democracy is being eroded. It's being taken away. Voting rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights, you name it, labor union right, the whole shebang. So my priority, first of all, is inequality, looking at policies around inequality here as it relates to California. The climate crisis is a huge priority we've got to address. Secondly, the housing crisis. And thirdly, public safety. Those are three issues that are on everyone's mind here. And so we have to be creative, being one of 100. I know I can put forth in these three areas right away, solutions, and try to bring the politics of it to bear on those three issues. But when we have to look at inequality, economic inequality, what it's going to take to reduce the cost of living here in California, look at formulas. I was in one region last week, and they're outdated federal formulas, okay, that go to certain areas which don't help local governments. And so I want to look at some of these outdated formulas for funding, because some communities get just this big, some get this much, and it's based on formulas that were developed in the 1980s and 1990s. But climate, public safety, housing have got to be, because that's on everyone's mind here. And then you look at childcare, and you look at all the issues around poverty, food insecurity. California has a lot of issues, so it's hard to just say one priority. You've got to look at inequality, what people need, and what they expect out of their senator to make their lives better.
We know that you had an opportunity to work with Congressman Shirley Chisholm, and how did she influence you?
Well, I wasn't a registered voter, and I said I would never register to vote because I didn't believe in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I was a community worker with the Black Panther Party, and I was Black Student Union president at Mills College. I've only taken one class in government. I had one class required me to work in the campaign. So I told my professor, flunk me. I'm not working in McGovern, Muskie, Humphrey, whoever was running then. I just said, I'm not doing that in their campaign because they're not speaking to the issues of a Black woman on welfare trying to take care of her kids, need childcare, and want to make a better life, right? So forget it. So I invited Shirley Chisholm as Black Student Union president to come to the campus to speak. I didn't know she was running for president. No one did. The media had just sort of, side like the media does often, not took her seriously. And so she came and she spoke, and let me tell you, she spoke fluent Spanish. She was bilingual. She talked about poverty. She was against the Vietnam War. She was one of the few African-American women leaders way back then who talked about reproductive justice and abortion rights. And she was a woman who I was amazed. First woman elected, Black woman elected to Congress. So I went up to her afterwards because I had organized this and talked to her. And she took me to task because she asked me about getting involved politically, and said, no, Democrats, Republicans don't hit it off for me. But she convinced me, and she shook her hand at me, little girl. And I was in my 20s, man. I was a returning student. And up until she passed away, she called me little girl. And she convinced me that I should register to vote, and told me, and she asked if I could help her in a campaign. I said, yeah, I have a class. I'll see what I can do because I like what you say, but I was going to flunk this class. So I went back and talked to, and Shirley Chisholm was amazing. She was a friend all my life, came out for me when I ran for the Assembly, Senate, and Congress. She she left. I went back to my class, talked to my professor, told her I'd reconsider passing this class. What should I do next? She said, that's up to you. That's part of the class. You got to figure that out. So bottom line is I ended up organizing the Shirley Chisholm Northern California Shirley Chisholm presidential primary out of my class at Mills College. I registered to vote. I got an A in the class, and I went on to Miami as a Shirley Chisholm delegate. That's how she influenced me. It took that one person to influence me to get involved in politics. And then I went on and worked as an intern and chief of staff to our beloved Congressman Ron Domes, and never stopped.
San Diego, we are right here by the border. And one of the crises, another one that we have in this country is immigration.
Yep.
And what ideas do you have to solve this immigration crisis that we have, where so many people are trying to pour into our country and we just don't seem to be able to get it together?
Yeah, and I've been to the border of San Diego and Tijuana and went in and saw a lot of the Black immigrants from Cameroon and Haiti. And so the first thing we got to do is get some justice and some equal kind of treatment for Caribbean and African immigrants. That's the first thing, and make sure they're treated well. Secondly, I don't agree with the back to Mexico policy or snatching kids at the border from their families. I think what we have to do is make sure that the current system works. I mean, there's a process for asylum seekers, and we're not adhering to the process, first of all, and we're discriminating against immigrants from different countries. But secondly, we have got to come up with a comprehensive strategy to deal with comprehensive immigration reform, because and I'm glad that the vice president is tackling this, because at the crux of the matter, people are leaving. They don't want to leave their homes. They're leaving their countries because of economic reasons and because of violence. And I've been to many of these countries, and they're terrified. Most immigrants don't want to leave home. They want to stay home. So we've got to have a balance there. We've got to make sure the border is secure. I agree with border security, but not the way that it has been handled by deporting certain people. ICE is ruthless in many respects. Oftentimes, we have to have a humane policy that immigrants know what the laws are. They have to have attorneys. They have to know what they can and what is available to them and what is not, and have a clear pathway to citizenship. And we have to adhere to the current laws on immigration and asylum seekers, because asylum seekers, there's a path, and many asylum seekers don't even get in the queue for it. And so it's a big problem. No one knows how to solve it except passing comprehensive immigration reform. And there's several bills that will do that, in addition to making sure that our DACA recipients, they're as American as you and I. They've been here. They should be citizens. And so, it's a complicated issue, but I think we can solve it if we have the courage to do that. And if we would, stand up and stop demonizing immigrants, recognizing we've got to have a secure border. No one, even the Progressive Caucus doesn't take a position against border security. We've got to have that, but we've got to do this within the context of American values and be welcoming to immigrants and making sure that they're treated properly, or making sure that the issues that they left, which again, in terms of poverty, in terms of the economic crisis, and in terms of the violence that's taking place that causes immigrants to leave because they can't survive in their own country physically.
Now, we know that you were the lone voice against giving George W. Bush the powers, unlimited war powers. And now we have a war going on in Ukraine, where I'm not sure if we're the proxy or what it is, quite how we would describe it. But how do you see these things as being different in terms of supporting Ukraine in this war?
Sure, they're totally different. The authorization to use military force that I voted against, that was right after the horrific events of 9/11, and then the Iraq authorization that came later, were broad authorizations that gave not only President Bush, but any subsequent president the authority to send troops, to have boots on the ground, and to wage war without coming to Congress. The Constitution requires anytime there are considerations to go to war, the US against another country, you have to come to Congress. And we debate the facts, we debate the questions, we debate the issues, and then we give the president the authority or not to use force. What happened with the Afghanistan, the 9/11, and the Iraq authorization is it took the congressional requirement, constitutional requirement, out of our hands, which is the people's voice, and gave it to any president. It's been used now over 40 some times in over 19 countries. And right now, yes, I was the only one, but right now I'm trying to repeal it with Democrats and Republican votes. And it almost got past the Senate this year, but Mitch McConnell held it up, because we need to take back congressional authority. So that's what that was given. And that set the stage for forever wars. With regard to Ukraine, this is a war that Putin has waged on a democratic country. It didn't and the president's been very clear that we're not going to engage in direct conflict. If that were the case, he'd have to come back, and we've talked to him about this, he'd have to come to Congress to say, you have to give me an authorization to go in. He's not going to do that, because a direct conflict with Russia, you know where that leads. And it's important, though, that we support the Ukrainian people, the refugees. I've been to Ukraine, I've been to Poland several times, Moldova, Georgia. I know what's taking place in that region. And women and children are being raped by the Russian soldiers. Civilians need our assistance. The Ukrainian people are determined to win this war, and I believe they're going to win it. But we have to provide that economic support, and we have to provide that humanitarian support. When we had the majority, chaired the first time an African-American chaired the Appropriations Committee on State and Foreign Operations. That's all of our development, diplomacy, humanitarian assistance, refugee assistance, everything around the world. Actually, I put more money into the African Development Bank and started new funding streams for the Caribbean, the Black Caribbean, West Indies, while I was chair. So we did a lot, but a lot of the Ukrainian money came under my jurisdiction. I was there right before the war started in Poland. And so it's absolutely essential that we recognize that this is a move by Putin to destroy democracies. He's not going to stop with Ukraine. He's not going to stop in Eastern Europe. You know, the Russians have tampered with elections here in America. So it's a larger move to erode democracies, which lead to autocracy. So we have to be very vigilant and supportive of the Ukrainian people, but not allow the president to, and I don't think he will. I mean, he's made a commitment that we're not going to get into a direct conflict, because if that were the case, going back to the authorizations that I voted against, he'd have to come to Congress. But the danger is, he's already said he would, because we've asked him, we've written letters. He could use that, because that was an open-ended authorization. So believe you me, there's some of us who are keeping this administration in check, knowing that they committed, and we've been writing, myself and a few others who are onto the national security issues in Congress, written over and over and over again, saying, look, we're watching, look, you know, if you step over that line, then you have to come to Congress. And the response is, yes, we know. So, but just know that those authorizations were so broad, he could go in, send troops in, and wouldn't even have to come to Congress, because they voted for it, the congressional delegation.
Well, what about the fact that we have?
Yes, there's one more question that we can ask. And I've seen it several times in the chat. They want to know exactly what you can tell us about your strategy to win.
Well, I was just about to ask that.
Oh, strategy to win is first getting help from you all in a lot of ways. But what our path to victory is not what my opponent's path to victory is. There are so many people, first of all, who have dropped off the rolls or who didn't vote in the last election. People that look like you and I. It's about forming these coalitions and going to voters, introducing themselves to myself, because a lot of people don't know me and my background and my history. So we have to have money to do media statewide, but we also have to have resources to be able to have a ground game. And so we're going into areas where we know we're targeting voters. We know where we're going, and we know that we can get to, we need 35% of the vote, which is about 4.5 million people in the primary. This is a jungle primary. And so a lot of people don't know I have deep roots in the Central Valley. I'm on the only Californian on the agriculture committee of the Appropriations Committee. Do a lot of food security in the Central Valley, a lot of issues around poverty, a lot of issues around small farmers and vertical farming, especially crops and whole. So I may or may not win in Central Valley, but I have pockets and targets of people and support by state legislators in the Central Valley to help them get to know me and my work. And so we're going everywhere. I was in Anaheim last week. I've been in Irvine. You know, I'm going everywhere, not leaving a stone unturned, in the Coachella Valley, in the Inland Empire. We're gonna solidify Northern California. So our strategy and why we have to raise money, but no, we can't, because, you know, there are barriers to Black women raising money in a campaign like this. There are challenges for Black women everywhere in the country to raise money to run for office, especially in a state with 40 million people. But Karen Bass, who's a good friend of mine, she won with $9 million. Her opponent at 100 million. Now, Los Angeles is not the state, but the strategies that you look at how she won that race. it's the boots on the ground. It's the contact with voters. It's inspiring voters. It's getting young people involved. At my kickoff yesterday, we had the leadership of the Gen Z movement there. And so it's putting together coalitions and alliances to make sure people understand that I have a history of being a progressive, and I've championed issues, and I've been able to get them signed into law, and how I have delivered for people. And that's what it's about.
Congresswoman Lee, we've gone over our time, but I'd like to ask you, because we want to continue talking to you, but I wanted to ask you this. There are 3 Democrats right now that are well known, that are already stepped in into this Senate race. How do you differentiate yourself from the other 2?
Well, California is a progressive state, but also a state that expects their senator to deliver. If you look at my history and my record as a progressive, I just didn't become a progressive. I've been a progressive all my life, and I've delivered to people on all fronts. And when you look at my broad-based coalition, it's very broad. I have women, people of color, men, people in different parts of the state. And I'm campaigning on a progressive agenda, but also an agenda that speaks directly to the voters in California. I have to talk about what I'm going to do, because I don't know what my opponents, they're going to distinguish themselves also. But I know for me, inequality, racial justice, public safety, childcare, all those issues that Californians deserve, I've worked on. And I'm going to take my work and experience to the people and lay out exactly what I intend to do. My opponents will speak to the voters and distinguish themselves also. But finally, I'll just say, as a Black woman, there are no lenses of Black women or views of Black women in the Senate. And I think that's a distinguishing factor in this, that the strength of Black women and being able to have worked the way we've worked in this country to save our democracy, to save our economy, to save our communities. It's not only for us, but it's for everybody, and everyone deserves a seat at the table, and Black women do that. And I don't know if every other opponent has that view, that everyone deserves a seat and everyone's issues in California should be addressed.
Well, thank you so much for giving us, those answers. And I'd like to find out, what is it that we can do to support you?
Well, we organized San Diego for me. My precinct capital, we're going to have a ground campaign. So people who can help us, and the election is a long way off, but it's really not. I mean, it's March of 2024. So beginning to help organize in precincts. And when I come down, introduce us to organizations that are on the ground that might want to support me, and endorsements and money. So it's 3 things. It's organizing, it's endorsements, and it's resources. And you all could really make or break this campaign. And I really appreciate being able to be with you. But my campaign manager, if you tell us who to contact and all, we can follow up and let you know when we're coming down, and would love for you to arrange whatever kind of event, fundraising or meet and greets or whatever you could arrange for me to get to meet more people. I've done a lot in San Diego with the Democratic Party. Know a lot of people there, but I haven't campaigned there, of course. So I'm going to be campaigning there.
Well, let me just check in with our co-president, Ms. Pipkin Allen. Do you have any last questions you'd like to ask the Congressman before you let her go?
No, I don't have a last question, but I see Michelle Krug is on here, and she's our regional coordinator. I'd like for her to ask her question, and then we will conclude. Michelle?
Thank you, Elise. I am a longtime fan, and I'm thrilled that you're running. My question is really about the border wall, and that we are being so affected here in San Diego with the gates they're trying to put in over the Tijuana River, et cetera, at Friendship Park, closing off Friendship Park. I just wondered if you had any thoughts. I hate to end this on that, because I'm totally expecting to help you on the campaign, but I just wondered if you have any thoughts and how we can also help with that.
No, thank you. Tell me, okay, do you all support that wall? I mean, what they're doing there? Because a lot of this goes through the Appropriations Committee, which I serve on, and a lot of this is funded through that. And I'd like to hear what your take is on this, because you're so close to the border. I'm from El Paso, Texas, border town, and I know it's happening on the Mexican El Paso, Texas border. But what's going on, and what do you think makes sense at the San Diego Tijuana border in terms of the wall? I mean, is there a wall built now?
Yes, so the wall did quote unquote need repair, and we really expected Biden to not touch that and just, you know, repair it with what it was. But right now they're trying to put it as cement. I can totally get you in touch with people that would know exactly the materials, etc. But what they're doing is, it used to be a place not that long ago. I was a wastewater operator, and I remember I worked down there. I remember families meeting with each other once a week on Saturdays and Sundays through the wall. They won't be able to do that any longer. And they're trying to put a gate over the Tijuana River that they claim they're going to open up when there's flooding times, but we've already had a disaster about flooding related to that.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I need to drill down a little bit more, but I will definitely talk to Sarah, who's your representative, about that, because if there's anything in the Appropriations Committee I can do that would be supportive of the delegation in San Diego, I will, and I'm sure they're hearing from you all on that. So would you please make sure I get the more information on that?
We will definitely provide.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I would,
it would be Juan Vargas, actually.
Juan,
It would be-
okay. Yeah, okay,
Thank
make sure, okay, Latrice's on my staff, she's on the office, who's my consultant. She'll get that something on it so I can talk to Juan about this. So
Thank you.
Okay, no, I appreciate that.
Congresswoman, we really appreciate your time with us today, and our club, or we will vote on endorsing you. And so we will be happy to entertain that and let you know. But I can just tell you that you certainly have an advantage, as we are a Black women's club to support Black women. So we do have that advantage, and we do appreciate your time today. And I want to thank you. And we have put the information on how to volunteer and also how to donate. And we look forward to you coming back again later on in the campaign and sharing, your progress with us. And we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you in San Diego.
Thank you very much. Really great being with you. I feel at home and appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was wonderful. Samantha, are you ready to talk about reparations task force update?
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So at this time, I'm going to make a brief report on the functionings and recommendations that have come up so far out of the California Task Force for Reparations. All right, so I just want to show you that this is the current membership of the task force. We've got state senators, we've got attorneys, we've got college professors, assembly members, we've got our own council president pro tem, Monica Montgomery Stepp. We've got this gentleman, Donald Tamaki, who served on the task force that worked on Japanese reparations in the state. And so just want to let you know that those are our statewide representatives on the task force. So a little background about the task force. It was enacted due to Assembly Bill 3121 that was put forward by our own now Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. As I said, Council President Pro Tem Monica Montgomery Stepp is a member on the task force, and it's a 2-year process that they are engaged towards to study the harms of slavery and systematic racism, and they will confront issues around how a state can make amends to its residents and citizens. The Reparations Committee was appointed by the governor and legislative leaders and is mandated to meet at least 10 times. And they will release a report on their findings after the first year, and then a second report on their recommendations in the following year. And they're going to need the legislature to pass laws to implement them. So some of the requirements of the work of the task force are to describe the institution of slavery and its impact on the state of California, to identify and describe federal and state laws that discriminate against African American people today, to develop proposals to eliminate California policies that continue to discriminate against Black communities, to recommend a formal apology on behalf of the people of California, to recommend remedies to the harms sustained by Black communities, to determine how compensation should be calculated and who's eligible to receive it, and to make sure that any recommendations are in compliance with the international standard for reparations, and then to recommend how residents of the state of California can be educated regarding the work of the task force. So
Black love to fucking fuck good. If you're a hot boy and you want to fuck me at $23.95, if you want to.
I removed the person. Samantha, feel free to continue.
Thank you. So categories for consideration of the work of the task force are racial terror, political disenfranchisement, housing segregation, separate and unequal education, racism in the environment and infrastructure issues, the pathologizing of Black families, an unjust legal system, stolen labor and hindered opportunity, control over creative, cultural, and intellectual life, mental and physical harm and neglect, the wealth gap, and the creation and implementation of the California African American Freedom Affairs Bureau. All right. So a few of the recommendations thus far, and there's a very extensive report as well as executive summaries and some summations of recommendations that I would recommend that everyone read in order to get more aware and informed of the recommendations and the work of the task force thus far. But this is just kind of a quick list of a few of the things. So basically what they're going to do is be the first task force in the nation to identify reparations for African Americans, voted to limit eligibility to those who can trace their lineage. So that was a little bit of a, a controversial piece of conversation among the members, but they came to an understanding that what they want to do is ensure that eligibility is limited to those who can trace lineage. And then they want to look at changing language in the state constitution around slavery and incarceration. They want the issuance of formal apologies, greater accountability for law enforcement officers, the offering of housing grants, zero interest business and housing loans, and other grants to members of the Black community. They want to address disenfranchisement related to redistricting, change policies related to discriminatory housing practices, and then create something similar to the GI Bill for Black students going into college. Those who may be veterans or family members of veterans are familiar with the GI Bills and how that works. To address environmental racism, make changes to the child welfare system, which we know disproportionately impacts Black children and families, address discrimination that is built into algorithms that are currently used by law enforcement agencies and may be used in the future, implement Medi-Cal reforms, and many more. As I said, I really recommend that you take a look at the website that will give you information at much greater length regarding the representation, because there are lists of recommendations for each one of those categories that I shared earlier. And, while the most recent meeting was held here in San Diego in the latter part of January, the next meetings to be held are going to be in Sacramento on March 3rd and 4th that are in person, but you can also observe them live screen if you're not able to travel, and you can participate in public comment through the phone number listed on the screen. And you can access the agenda in Spanish language should you need. There's a link on the website for that as well. And that is the summation of my report on the task force.
Thank you, Samantha, Delia, and Lawana.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so as you know, we're wrapping up Black History Month, which for me, it's never ending. However, but officially our month ends in a few days. And so Lawana and I wanted to speak a few words about Black History Month. I like to start with saying that, you know, as I end the month of February, I think to myself how, for me, Black history has always been part of my experience on the daily, and how proud I am to be part of such a diverse community of people. When you think about the imprint of Black influence and contributions are quite visible, from our structures to inventions, to expressions, to legislation, to music, to cuisine, to education, to social movements, and the list goes on and on. Just even about, you know, driving about our day-to-day or going, there's very little that visibly, whether we know it or not, that we have touched in this country. And Black women have been at the center of it all. In fact, leading it, even without receiving recognition, we have. And as a group, we have a deep understanding of the relational nature of freedom, precisely because we sit at various intersections of targeted oppression. As Barbara Lee said earlier, which is a great quote, by the way, we cannot tinker around the edges. So true. As you know, throughout American history, Black contributions to all facets of society have been marginalized or outright dismissed. And the contributions of achievements of Black women are no exception. Lawana?
So I just wanted to share a little bit about a figure in history that we've all heard about, but in many cases, the people that we learn about in K through 12, we only learn like a sliver of what their contributions are. To give you some examples, many people know Rosa Parks for sitting on a bus, and she did so much more way before that fateful day on that bus in Montgomery. And in many ways, what followed was because, you know, that day they picked the wrong one. And I'd like to today kind of highlight Harriet Tubman, because we're always taught about how she she was part of the Underground Railroad, and she led many enslaved persons to freedom. But what we don't hear a lot about, some of us may have heard now that she was also a spy in the Union Army, but we don't necessarily hear about how heavily she was involved in the recruitment of freed African Americans to be part of the Union Army, and the mission she led, where like in one case, she led a mission where they captured a ship and were able to free 800 enslaved people at one time. And so I think that when we think about, you know, where Black women have been in the history of this country, we have to look at Harriet Tubman as one of the people that helped lead the Union Army to victory. And I've heard many of the generals and officers that she worked with have been quoted as how much they appreciated her help. And so she was more than just a part of the Underground Railroad. Well, that was a very important piece of history. Our history didn't end or begin with slavery and the involvement in much the same way. And she was also active in women's rights as well. Dahlia?
And so as we come to an end in honor of Black History Month, remember that history is a living, breathing thing, and that the learning continues. You know, we make history as we do things. It's what we leave. It's something that you can make. And remember, you have an opportunity to educate yourself, to read, to listen. And as Black women, we must, we must stand up for each other, even when we disagree or when we don't see eye to eye. That is even more so when we need it's more so even when we need each other the most. And going beyond Black History Month, supporting each other's civic engagement, campaigns, from the school board to the state legislation to the White House, celebrating our differences and our different ways of addressing issues. It takes all of us to address problem solving from multiple perspectives. And for our allies, when you state that you support the contributions of Black women, mean it through actions. Don't just call on Black women when things are burning and people are like, oh my God, we need Black women to save the day. What we need is to be seen in our full humanity to begin with. And what does that look like? Well, that means continually holding space for our voice, our direction, our perspective, even when it doesn't align with yours. And so I'd like to end this with a quote from Simone D. Sanders, who is a political strategist. She says, I think the political and democratic apparatus has woken up to see the real value of Black women. And now they are doing all kinds of things to hold on to it and bring Black women into the fold. And Black women are like, we just want you to hire us, give us resources, let us lead, and get out of our way. Thank you.
Wow, that was wonderful. Ismahan.
Yes, thank you so much, Luana and Dahlia. So real quick, I'm going to also put a link on the chat. This is in talking more about the Protect Ordinance and the work that the Coalition for Police Accountability and Transparency, also known as CPAT, is working on and advocating for a law to be passed in the city of San Diego called Protect. And Protect is really going to require officers to have probable cause to stop, detain, or search a person, eliminate stops for certain equipment violations, such as expired registration, broken turn signals, etc., as well as prohibit officers from questioning people about any offense beyond the offense for which they are stopped for, unless the officers have probable cause. And last but not least, hold officers accountable if they violate the Protect Ordinance. So we actually had a presentation done by Christy Hill Love from the San Diego ACLU. And we will love for folks to really just kind of get to know. We will be having another presentation, an in-depth presentation in March regarding this proposed ordinance, some of the fact sheets, and as well as just information about how you can kind of get involved to be really part of this effort. So go to cpatsd.com to learn more about what this Protect Ordinance is about. And we're encouraging folks to share these links, to sign on. And we know that when we talk about criminal justice reform, when we talk about just the data and the data that that is available in regards to how disproportionately Black and Brown communities are often targeted by law enforcement. And so we will be having that in-depth presentation. So we would love for folks to join us in March. And in the meantime, sign up for the Action Network link that I put in the chat, as well as check out the website, cpatsd.com, to learn more about what the Protect Ordinance campaign is about, and that we would love for folks to join in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, to our guests and participants, are there any questions that you would like to ask anyone about the last the Protect Ordinance or the Reparation Task Force? We're a little bit ahead. We're a little bit behind, I'm sorry. Okay, Dahlia, for the Treasurer's report, please.
Sure. Okay, so the Treasury report, and I'll go on to membership. So give me just a moment. We had a opening balance of, just 1 second, of $1,941.57. We are now down to $462.25 due to we did a few we did a donation to Marquita's Brown campaign donation. We also sponsored a table for the Women's Roar event, and this quarter actually Looks like we have 4 new members. Thank you for those who paid their membership fee. And that is it for now.
And there's a question on the chat, Dahlia, will we get a reminder when dues are next due?
Yes, I was just looking at our list. A lot of members who signed up last year, I believe will be coming up in March. So expect to see an email sent to you so you can renew your membership. Thanks for that question. And speaking of members, please, we need more members. We actually need more membership dues paid. So please take the time to go onto our website and sign up for membership, whether you want to be a charter member, a general, students and retirees. And then also we recognize folks who are experiencing hardships. There's different levels, but you're all members as far as we're concerned. So if you have the time, please do. Thank you. Oh, thank you. We have some donor levels as well, from the 1,000 up to 50, down to 50, and we've named them according to some just beautiful, wonderful, powerful Black women across the diaspora.
Thank you, Dahlia.
Thank you.
All right, so our next part will be announcements. If folks have any announcements that they would like to make, as well as candidates who are running for office as well. So maybe we'll start off with the candidates. If you can raise your hand so you can be recognized, and then we'll jump into announcements towards the end.
Looks like Heather Ferbert, our hand is up.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Heather Ferbert. San Diegans are going to elect a new city attorney next year, and it's a critical office in San Diego for protecting consumers, workers, and the environment. I'm running for San Diego city attorney because we need a city attorney we can trust to deliver urgently needed progress. As a chief deputy city attorney, I've spent my career serving the public and tackling tough problems. I wrote the law that stopped evictions during the pandemic to keep families safe in their homes. I've broken through the bureaucracy to combat the housing shortage, and I worked hard to ensure that San Diego is a safe place for anyone to access an abortion. Those are the values I've fought for my entire career and will continue to fight for as your city attorney. I'm also a working mom, and I know the struggles working families face and the challenges facing our youth. At the end of the day, the top priority for me will always be upholding the law equally and fighting to move San Diego forward. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and to working together to advance our shared values. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And Janessa?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Janessa Goldbeck. It's wonderful to see so many friendly faces on here. Thank you for this incredible opportunity to hear directly from our future Senator, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. I really appreciate it. I'm running for County Board of Supervisors. It's a long ways off. It's probably going to be a special election in 2025. I just wanted to let everyone know that I haven't met who I am, say hi personally, and I'd love to get coffee, sit down, have a longer conversation in the weeks and months ahead. So I'll drop my contact info in the chat, but just wanted to say hi and thank you to the organizers for putting us on.
Thank you so much. And we have Kate. Kate, you're muted.
Hi. I run so many meetings and you'd think I get good at the mute button, but apparently not. It is a real pleasure that I could make it today. I am really excited to announce on behalf of my club that I'm the president of, the San Diego Democratic Education Alliance, that next month on March 26th at 2 p.m. We will be having our general meeting. We will include in our meeting a panel that we are hoping to have co-sponsored through BAWR and the MLK Junior Club, a panel on the difficulties that Black candidates have for school board. So I would love to invite all of you to join us for that. That is the last Sunday of the month in March, the 26th at 2 p.m. I can put the link in the chat if anyone would like to join us for that. We would love to have you as part of that conversation. Thanks so much. And thank you so much for having this amazing ability to hear from Barbara Lee directly. It's been great.
Thank you. I'll make sure you put the information in the chat. In fact, if there's anything that anyone wants to put in the chat for us to send out to our members on informational sessions, please do.
Thank you so much. And Michelle, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I guess I'll combine both. I am actually running for re-election as your regional director. I welcome any questions or conversations. I'm happy if someone puts my phone number in the chat. And I really do feel like everybody needs to be enfranchised and the information needs to get out to everybody. And I'm pretty good at getting back to people. And when I don't know an answer, I find out and get back to you. The announcement I want to make is that the California Alliance of Retired Americans is having a protest at Kevin McCarthy's office in Bakersfield. We have a free bus coming to San Diego. There are 7 buses leaving from different parts of California, and we're all going to converge on Friday, March 17th. It's a one-day trip. We're leaving Old Town Station at 7:30 in the morning, stopping in Oceanside at 8:15, going on to Anaheim and then on to Bakersfield, and then having lunch, socializing, and so check out CaliforniaAlliance.org. If somebody could put that in the chat, I'd appreciate it. And then just make a reservation for the bus. Again, with accessing that or anything else, just call me. Thanks. I think people have the number, but it's 619-884974. Thanks. And let's go out and let Kevin McCarthy know that we're willing to be active. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And then Angela, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I just actually wanted to give a shout out. I see a friend of mine, Kimberly Stansel from Los Angeles on here. Kimberly, I wanted to say hello.
I love that.
Okay, it's good to see you. And I see a new member, Chida, is on. Chida, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Hi, Chida.
Hi,
You
Chida.
all are so wordy.
Hey, y'all. No, I'm just taking it in. Glad to be here. I'm finally joined. Been trying to clear my schedule to be a little more active. So love to see the work you all are doing, and thank you for allowing me to be a part.
Thank you for joining us. And then Samantha, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to share a couple of things. You all may or may not know, because I just recently found out about this, that this week is actually Black Women's History Month. And this is an observance that is started within the last couple of years to make sure that Black women's history is really carved out in between Black History Month and Women's History Month, because we know that even during those observances, Black women can be marginalized out of the conversation. So I dropped some information in the chat about how you can honor Black Women's History Week and what that looks like, and I hope you all take a look at it. And then the other thing that I wanted to share is that the Citizens Advisory Board for Police and Community Relations is having their first public meeting, not public, but in-person meeting in about a year and a half since COVID. We're going to be meeting at the Skyline Recreation Center tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. We'll, of course, have representatives from the police department. We'd love to have community members from throughout the city of San Diego come out and join and be a part of the conversation. So once again, that's 6 p.m. at the Skyline Recreation Center.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I see Rob Howard online. Rob, can you tell us what's going up in North County? Rob, are you there?
I think Miss Baker has her hand up as well.
Yes, go ahead, Ruby.
Thank you. Sorry, this is my first time here. I love the presentation and I'd love to join the meeting later. I'm I'm president of the San Diego chapter of CLUE, which is part of the AFL-CIO. It's Coalition of Labor Women, and we're doing an International Women's Day presentation, and we have an author coming to talk about based on the women's movement during the 70s, and the author wrote a book, and she's going to share about that. I put a flyer already in the chat, and I'm very excited to share, but I'm also really glad to be here, and I caught the presentation. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I see Kathy Hyatt, the new president of the Democratic Women's Club. Would you like to say a few words, Kathy? Am I muted?
No, you're not.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, all right.
It's all right. So we will be closing then if there's no more announcements that folks want to make. Okay, I see you.
Oh, just really quick, Ismahan, I know there's some nonprofit organizations here. If anybody wants to speak to it, just so that we know you're out there and we can support you.
Okay, I really appreciate.
I think Dr. Richmond has her hand raised.
Oh.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't already know, one of my, I guess, hobbies is Afrofuturism, and I've been producing Afrofuturism events for the past 5 years. And last month, I formally got my 501c3 determination letter from the IRS for a nonprofit I created called Griot Nears. Griot for African storyteller and Nears for engineers. And the focus of Griot Nears will be engineering the future through storytelling, and the focus will be activities, programs, workshops, and experiences to help us envision and manifest a more equitable, just, and humane future together. My very first nonprofit will be Monday, March 20th at the University Club. And I'll put a link to the event in the chat, but I'll have a Afrofuturism art exhibit and silent auction. There'll be a sound bath meditation. There'll be some VR and some AI, food and drinks, and dialogue about the future and how we can all work together to make it better.
Thank you so much, Lawana. And then last but not least, Michelle, you have another announcement?
Really, it's sorry, Carolyn, but Carolyn Fowler, who is the head of our California Democratic Party Women's Caucus, she's also a Democratic National Committee member. She is on the line, and I would love her to introduce herself to San Diego.
I'll give you a second to unmute.
Well, maybe she's
not on the line here.
All right, and then Kathy, I see that you have so you're unmuted. So I don't know if you wanted to say a few words. I know Ms. Elise was asking you earlier.
Greetings. Yes, I just wanted to thank you, Michelle. I wanted to say how impressed I am with your organization. I apologize, my video is not working. I've got airplanes flying over. I reported my Wi-Fi, but I'm so glad that I was able to attend this afternoon. So much great work that you're doing. I, like Michelle, I'm going to probably be running again for chair of the Women's Caucus, and many of you did support me before. This is going to be my last run, though. It's a 2-year term. I've done a good job of mentoring 3 potential African-American women to replace me. So I certainly would look forward to your support. I guess I would have an announcement to make in terms of March 25th in honor of Women's History Month. And if you're a member of the Women's Caucus, you'll get this, but I'll send this to your organization as well. The party has asked us to hold an in-person celebration. It'll be at the Sheraton Grand downtown Los Angeles from 11 a.m. to 2. It'll be a brunch. There'll be 2 panels. The first panel will be mayors from around the state. The moderator will be Dr. Julianne Melvo. The second panel will be some legislators from around the state. Hopefully Dr. Weber is one of them. So one of your own. I think we asked Tony Atkins too. So hopefully some of you will be able to participate in that. And the theme is California Women Making History, because whether many know it or not, we do have a historical presence in the country. If you look at our constitutional leaders, the majority are women and women of color. I just left, Malia Cohen had a community swearing in here in Los Angeles, and then I just left Sonoma. They have a big crab feed up there, and she was there as well. So we have a lot to be proud of with our Vice President, Kamala Harris, with Dr. Shirley Weber, with Malia Cohen.
Karen Bass.
Karen Bass. I was coming to my local with Karen Bass making history. She'll be one of the mayors that was invited, of course. I just had a meeting with London Breed. So it's going to be an exciting day if you can make it. But whether you make it or not, just keep doing what you're doing. I so appreciated that you're having Congresswoman Barbara Lee here today. Many people don't know her story, and it's telling our stories, which is part of the theme for Women's History Month internationally. Telling our stories and making our presence known. She does have a story like no other. The lived experience is important, and I think that's a message we have to get across to our allies. Personally, I resent the media with this, like it's a two-person race, Alan Schiff or Katie Porter. That's absolutely, and so the two minority candidates that Rohana and Barbara Lee, it's like they don't exist. And that's up to us to change that, and particularly Barbara Lee. So I look forward to joining you. I do plan to attend the county committee meeting in April, the dinner. So hopefully I'll see some of you there as well, but look forward to working with you and supporting your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. One more, and then that's a wrap. Ellie Brown.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Dahlia. Thanks for this opportunity to hear from amazing women. Yeah, Dahlia asked me to share a little more about my work. I'm with the San Diego Food System Alliance. We're working in our region in San Diego County on food justice, food sovereignty, working with a network of amazing partners. Black women really are on the front lines of this movement of food sovereignty, food justice, ensuring we all have access to healthy food, and that we're treating our environment in the best way possible. Yeah, we have policy priorities we're working on, access to land for underserved communities that really want to grow food. We're also working on worker justice, food system worker justice, essential food and farm workers, really making sure that their living conditions and wages, labor conditions are good. As you can imagine, it's a big fight, land, worker issues. So definitely want to keep you in the loop as some of our campaigns take off. And we have a big event in October. I know it's far away. Our Food Vision 2030 annual gathering, October 19th. So if food or farming or any of these issues inspire you, I'd love for you to come October 19th. I'll put our website on the chat.
Thank you so much, Ellie. And actually, Ms. Elise, before you close us out, I noticed, Kathy Haya, you were having a little technical difficulties, but I still want to give you the chance to speak. Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I'm going to close the meeting now. However, I would like the board to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes, please.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Good to see all of you.
Thank you.